Hey everyone, welcome back to another Art and Talk. Today's topic, I wanted to talk about allowing people to figure out life for themselves. If you've been following me on my Art and Talks, I've been very vocal about how I tend to want to control things, kind of be a perfectionist, sometimes play God subconsciously and try to fix everything. It's just the eldest daughter tendencies in me, but the more that I'm growing up and the more that I'm having these lived experiences, the more that I'm realizing like you really have to leave people where they are for them to figure themselves out. You cannot convince people to better themselves. You cannot convince people to want to have better for themselves, and you can't convince people to want to change their lives. Even if you see potential in somebody, or like you can see someone in a whole new era and a whole new environment, if they just make this little or maybe even big shift, you can't convince somebody to want that bad enough for themselves. And people can say that they want something bad enough for themselves, but their actions and the truth of what they're saying will be displayed in their actions. And I guess I just started thinking about talking about this today because I have this friend and she has so much potential, and she's out there, she does her thing, but she recently suffered a loss. She went for a position and it was kind of in front of like the whole university. She went for a position and it was a position that was supposed to fill 4 spots and 5 people were running, and she's the only one, right, that out of the 5 people that didn't get it. So the 4 other people won and she did not. And so it really devastated her because she had been wanting this position and wanting to be in with this group for so long, and she did so much campaigning, and she was so happy and so excited, and I just saw a complete shift in her mood when she lost. And I genuinely believed in her and I genuinely thought she would win, but sometimes things like that happen and it is what it is, and it doesn't feel good to lose, but you don't win everything. And so obviously she kind of had like a down attitude for a little bit, and I was very like empathetic towards her. Like I knew that she wasn't in the highest spirits, but a couple weeks had passed and that was all over, and she was still super negative and just in a really bad mood. And I just started to notice like all she would do was just talk about her negative experiences or what negative things happening in her life, or like I would be feeling happy and then I would get into the car with her and like her mood completely brings my mood down. Because I feel people's feelings very deeply, like I'm very intuitive in that way, and so she would bring my mood down, or I would be feeling sad already and I'm just looking to spend time with a friend and get cheered up, and like her mood is just making my mood even worse. And I feel like when you're the strong friend and when you're the person that not hides your struggles but does a really good job at dealing with them privately, people almost punish you for feeling, or people punish you for having problems happening in your life, and people don't believe that your problems are as significant as theirs because you carry it better than they do. And I've experienced this my whole entire life, and I know we always talk about the strong friend and the mom of the group, but it's genuinely a blessing and a curse because people don't take your problems seriously. This is trigger warning, but this is kind of how the happiest person committed suicide, and it's because people don't think that person deserves enough of a listening ear or deserves enough attention to their problems, and people minimize your problems when they feel like you're doing better than them. And so anyways, she had been having this negative attitude, and so there was another position that was open to being filled, and I kept begging her. I was like, come with me to this meeting, you might get a position, come with me. And she just kept saying, I may not. And then literally an hour before the meeting happened, she was like, I'm not coming with it. I'm not coming with you to do it. And I was like, why? And she's just like, it's cold outside. And I'm like, what's the real reason why? And she goes, I just don't want to do it. And in that moment, I had to realize for myself, like, we have to leave people exactly where they are. People can say they want opportunities. People can say that they want better for themselves. But the truth of that is in their actions. We cannot convince people to want better for themselves. And like, even when someone's in a negative mood, like the Bible even says, like, a good word cheers up anxieties in the heart. Or rather, it says anxieties weigh down the heart, but a good word cheers it up. And we can do that and play that part of trying to cheer people up. But if people like misery, if people like being upset, if people like being sad, or if people are comfortable there, rather, you cannot convince people out of that. Like right now in my life, I'm having a particularly hard season. It's just a lot of, I would say, warfare, like just mentally, and like trying to figure things out. And it's really hard for me to be in a happy mood right now, but I'm so cautious to not put that on other people, because I know how it feels like when you just got out of a rut and you're finally starting to feel happy again, but everybody around you has this sad attitude. It really ruins your mood. And so I guess I'm saying all of that to kind of get my thoughts out, but just to also say, like, leave people where they are. If people don't want to get better, if people don't want to change, if people want every single conversation to be a venting conversation, you have to make the right decision for yourself, because the Bible talks about bad company corrupting good morals. And I even think like bad moods corrupt good morals. Like, you can have a bad day, you can have a bad week, you can have a bad month, you could possibly have a bad year, but if every single time someone bumps into you, or every single time someone's coming to talk to you, you just have this horrible attitude, it really rubs off on people, and no one wants to be around someone like that. I have been having some of the worst weeks of my life, and yet whenever I get around people, I try my best to be in the highest moods, because I understand how my mood affects those around me. And basically, like, going back to the story, she ended up not coming to this board meeting, and in this board meeting, one of the chairs of the meeting ended up proposing a really good opportunity to me. And I realized that was kind of God's way of saying, this could have been given to her, but since she doesn't want it, I'm going to give it to you, or I'm going to present this opportunity to you. And it was probably best that she didn't come, because if she came, she's very social, she's more social than me, so she probably would have dominated the conversation, and I probably would have never known about that opportunity. But I just say all that to say, God makes things happen in a certain way, and ultimately he's sovereign over everything. But it just really bothered me, because I realized, like, at first I thought she was just having a couple bad days, but it's like every day is a bad day for you, and I can't always be a listening ear for you to complain. I can't always be a listening ear for you to vent about every single thing. And then you begin to realize, like, when has this person ever asked me about my life? When has this person ever asked me how I'm feeling genuinely? When has this person ever reciprocated sharing information in a conversation? Like, when you start to really pay attention to stuff like that, you'll notice this person's doing all the talking, this person is doing all the venting. Like, it's almost as if I have no problems and I'm just an emotional dumping bag. And you have to realize when that's happening in your life and be able to distance yourself from people in order just to protect your mental health and to protect your peace. And that doesn't mean she's a bad friend. I don't think she's a bad friend. We still have a lot in common, we're still good friends. But that day, or like that moment that it happened, I just decided I'm going to distance myself from her. Like, I think I'm just going to take a step back, because a lot of the times people don't realize how good of a community or friends that they have around them, and not everybody can put up with certain behavior for too long. And I'm reserving my energy and reserving my peacefulness for myself, because in this season I need it the most, and I'm out here giving it to people who don't appreciate it. But I guess I say all that to say, like, if you feel like there's been someone in your life where you just can't get through to them, no one can, they're always negative, they're always, moping down on your mood, like, consider who you're hanging around and consider how they make you feel. A question that I always ask myself after hanging out with somebody, and that I think about whenever I'm going to hang out with somebody, is how did I feel after hanging out with this person? And I always think to myself, like, hopefully people felt good after being around me. But you can never really know that. But I always ask myself how I feel after hanging out with them. Sometimes I'm like, I feel neutral, like, it didn't boost my mood, but it didn't bring my mood down. I feel so much better, I feel so much worse. And like, track that pattern. If you're noticing that you always feel bad after hanging out with this person, or things always just feel worse, consider your relationship with them and try to redirect that. Sometimes it just takes having a conversation with this person and telling this person, like, hey, I know you may be going through a hard season of your life right now, but so am I, and you've been very negative, or you've been very down, and it's just really affecting my mood, and I just need you to be more reciprocal. Like, you test the waters and discern what you need to do, what conversations you need to have. But some people, you don't even have to have a conversation with them. You just notice what you notice, you observe it, you take a mental note down, and you just slowly distance yourself. And you'll find that those people weed themselves out because, they're looking for someone to lay all their emotional burdens on. And when you start to back up a little bit, they'll look for someone new to do it too. So yeah, I wanted to give that reminder because I feel like sometimes we're oh, this is my friend, this is my whatever, and we're so consumed in trying to make up for a portion of that person's life, or we're so consumed with trying to help that person. And when you really take a step back, you realize a lot of these people don't want to help themselves, and it's a bunch of wasted energy, and it's just not fair to you to carry the burden of a whole nother person's life. I mean, this is what Jesus died on the cross for, to carry our burdens, and so we as humans don't have the capacity to carry everybody's burden. And just make sure to continue to take things like this in prayer, to prayer, and just making sure that you're asking God, how do you feel about this friendship that I have, or asking him what ways you can approach it. For me, I just felt like in this particular situation, he was telling me, just distance yourself. You don't have to have a conversation. There's certain things certain people will not understand, but just distance yourself a little bit. Distance make the heart grow fonder, and people will start to realize, this is a really good person I have in my life. Maybe I should start treating them accordingly. So yeah, I hope you learned something from this episode. Maybe this is just me venting my frustration, but I think sometimes people who are very empathetic or introspective, we tend to blur the lines between being there for a friend and literally just being someone that's being emotionally dumped on. And sometimes we overstep in friendships, and we just need to allow adults, and even if they're not adults, just allow people to figure life out for themselves, and they eventually will. If they don't figure it out, that's something that they have to deal with, but we cannot make everybody's problems our own problems, because you're just going to get burnt out. So I hope you learned something from this. Let me know what your comments are down below. Let me know what you think about this. Have you ever experienced a similar situation? If so, how did you go about it? And what do you think about this? What do you think about having to let people figure it out on their own? So let me know what you think, and thank you again for joining me today, and I will see you on another Art and Talk. Bye.